Well, good morning, everyone. It is an honor to be here, and it's been an honor to lead an amazing group of people in the House Artificial Intelligence Task Force for the last year. So a year ago, the Speaker and the Democratic leader decided that we needed a nexus within the House to establish some recommendations for a policy framework for the regulation of artificial intelligence. And so he asked me and my Democratic co-chair, Congressman Ted Lieu, to put together a group of people and to lead this effort over the past year. And our defined objective, our assigned task, if you will, was a report that was to be delivered by the end of the year that details a path forward for not only Congress but the federal government in the oversight of artificial intelligence. And so I am delighted to be standing in front of my task force today, introducing to the world our final work product, our Artificial Intelligence Task Force report. So I'd like to thank a long list of people, not only the Speaker and the Minority Leader for their vision in putting this group together, but also all of the staff that were assigned to us. Unlike most select committees, we didn't have our own staff. We borrowed from staff from all of the different policy committees. And so this was really a labor of love for those people. They worked very hard over the last year. And my task force members, I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. This task force was not a light lift. It was more work intensive than most policy committees for our members. We met 25 different times between our hearings and our roundtables. We were meeting most every single week, and there was a lot of reading and research to do, and so I am deeply honored that the people standing behind me were partners in getting that work done. And I'm also very, very proud of the work product that we've accomplished. What we're recommending in this task force report is that Congress balances the very important job of mitigating the potential harms of artificial intelligence and providing Americans with the protections that they deserve against some of the malicious use of AI, with the need to ensure that America remains the place where cutting-edge artificial intelligence is developed and deployed and remains at the forefront of artificial intelligence innovation. Those two ideas are at a fundamental level in tension, but we think that we can accomplish both of those tasks, and we feel that the report we've produced details a path forward for future Congresses. We think that achieving that balance is going to require some attention paid to sectoral regulation. We do not think that it is a good idea for the United States to follow some of the other countries in the world in splitting off AI and establishing a brand new bureaucracy and a universal licensing requirement for it. We think that our sectoral regulators have the knowledge and the experience needed to regulate AI within their sectoral spaces, but we also feel that they're going to need pools of resource, technical talent, testing and evaluation standards, and other support from the federal government to make sure that they can do their jobs effectively. We also think it's important to pay attention to what makes AI unique, and to also pay attention to the fact that AI is largely already regulated in this country. A lot of Americans have expressed to us in the course of our hearings the fear that AI is not regulated, that they're open to the harms that AI could potentially do them. And the message I want to send to people is that that's absolutely not true in this country. Already our sectoral regulators have taken the lead in making sure that AI is regulated within their spaces. The FDI is regulating the use of AI in medical devices and diagnostic tools. NHTSA is regulating the use of AI in autonomously driven cars. The FAA is regulating the use of AI in avionics software, and the list goes on and on. So these sectoral regulators are already doing this job, and we in Congress need to provide them with the backup and the tools and the resources that they need to do that job appropriately. And another key finding in the report that I want to call everyone's attention to is the fact that here in America, we believe in regulating outcomes, not regulating tools. And AI is a very powerful tool, but it is still, at the end of the day, just a tool. And if we focus on mitigating the harmful effects of AI, we won't have to worry about defining exactly what AI is, what AI is not, how many megaflops of compute went into training AI, coming up with all of these complicated technical definitions. We need to focus on regulating outcomes. For example, cyber theft is already illegal. We don't need a new law to regulate cyber theft and to control it, but what we do need to do is to empower our law enforcement with the tools and resources that they need to police it. And if we do that, we can prevent and mitigate that harm. And that's true of a lot of the different potential harms of AI. And the last thing that I want to emphasize and that we found in our report is the concept of incrementalism. We think it would be foolish to assume that we know enough about AI to pass one big bill next month and be done with the job of AI regulation. AI is one of the fastest growing technical fields that mankind has ever come across, and it's going to be very complicated and take time to regulate. But we think that Congress is up to the task of doing that, and we think that we need to divide that job into lots of different bite-sized pieces, and that's what we've done in the report. The report contains over 80 recommendations for future Congresses and over 60 key findings organized into 14 different policy areas. And we hope that this report forms a roadmap for future Congresses. We think it should be a checklist, starting with the 119th, to work through all of these recommendations and to find some compromise and figure out the path forward. But I hope that we have set a good example in creating this report for future Congresses. This is a bipartisan task force, equally composed of Republicans and Democrats, because we think that there is nothing inherently partisan about the job of regulating AI, and we hope that we've demonstrated that in the thoughtful way that this report has been crafted. So I would like to close on a note of optimism. You know, AI has created a lot of fear in Americans. AI has been informed by 50 years of science fiction and pop culture, and people sometimes don't have realistic opinions about what the hazards of AI are and what they are not. But the message that I want to send is one of optimism. I believe that AI will become the most powerful tool for enhancing human productivity that mankind has ever come up with. And that's important because if you look back in the 200-year history of our country, every single major expansion of our economy has been heralded by a corresponding increase in the productivity of our workers. Literally, our economic growth is driven by the productivity of American workers. And yet, in the last few years, American worker productivity has been in gradual decline. I believe that AI will be the next huge catalyst that will herald not only an increase in the productivity of the American workforce, but a corresponding increase in American prosperity that will literally lift all of the boats in America. So that's the promise of AI, if we can get our job right in regulating it effectively. So I want to thank very much my task force members again, and all of our staff, and our speaker and our minority leader for having the foresight to task us with this role in the last year. It's been an honor to serve with the amazing people behind me. So I would like to also say a big thank you to my co-chair, Congressman Ted Lieu of California. Unfortunately, he had a family emergency, was not able to be here today, but I want to thank him and his staff for all of their hard work and for making this such a bipartisan process. It's been a deep honor to be able to work with him over the last year. So at this point, I would like to introduce Congressman Foster, and we're going to alternate with our task force members saying a few words for a couple minutes each about the work that the task force has done over this last year. Congressman Foster.
Thank you. Yeah, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Congressman Bill Foster. I'm Congress's pet PhD physicist. Also, during my time in physics, designed chips. Back in the 1990s, I first programmed neural networks. So I've been trying to warn Congress about this oncoming tidal wave that AI is going to unleash on us for more than a decade. And I really want to congratulate our bipartisan co-chairs on the release of this report. I was proud to be the member who introduced the resolution to get it unanimously approved by the task force, which I think is very significant. I'd like to just highlight a couple of things that the report mentions that I think should be on the work agenda for the coming Congress. One of these is digital identity. This is the ability for a person to prove they are who they say they are in an online environment, and ultimately it's the only method of really defending people against deepfake impersonation. And so that's something I think we need to do. We have to deal with the privacy issues that AI will also unleash on the public. During the last session of Congress, I chaired the AI Task Force on Financial Services, and I echo the chair's comments about sectoral regulation being the real path forward in this country for dealing with AI. During that task force in the last Congress, we had hearings on everything from digital redlining to homomorphic encryption. And so there's a lot of work to be done, and the release of this report really represents a milestone in our progress. And there's a lot of thinking that Congress has to do to structure itself to map onto the modern digital economy so that we really have the ability to respond to the rate of technological change. Thank you all.
We'll hear next from Congressman Neil Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to echo some of the comments that he said. I think that AI is an outstanding tool. I think that it's going to be a force for much good in our lives. We all know that it poses certain dangers as well. Representative Foster also underscored the importance of we have to find a way to protect the people's privacy. So a national standard for privacy is still wanting. That's not going to be a product from this task force, but this task force, I think the work of this task force underscores how important that national privacy standard is, both for adults and kids, and we're addressing that, I think, very early in the next session. So those are things. I was very proud to be a part of this task force. I think that it's a fascinating subject. I want to say that one area of low-hanging fruit for artificial intelligence is healthcare. That may be the first adopters. I'm a physician by trade, and I think you'll see us using it very widely around the world to provide better healthcare throughout the world. So thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to work with you.
Okay, we'll hear next from Congressman Beyer. Did I see him walk in? Nope. Okay, we'll go back to him. Congressman, Representative Lee, we'll hear next from you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And good morning. I'm Congresswoman Laurel Lee. I represent Florida's 15th Congressional District. And throughout the 118th Congress, the Bipartisan House Artificial Intelligence Task Force has been exploring how the U.S. can stay competitive in AI while also managing the rapidly evolving risks of this technology. My colleagues who are here today and the others on the task force and I have been collaborating to try to understand and develop a plan for both the promises of this technology and the complexities that we face as policymakers. We've heard from industry leaders and government officials to better understand the risks of AI and how we can take a smart and tailored approach without stifling any innovation. We've also explored ways to balance constitutional rights and privacy protections while promoting innovation and competition. Foreign adversaries like Russia and China will continue to work to infiltrate our critical systems and infrastructures, and we must be prepared to use artificial intelligence to counter those threats. Our task force report covers several areas to be addressed by Congress, including content authenticity and intellectual property concerns, among many others. I was very proud to partner with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and others on the task force to sponsor the Defiance Act, which will hold accountable those who are responsible for the proliferation of non-consensual, sexually explicit, deepfake images and videos by allowing victims a federal civil right of action to go after these perpetrators who produce and share this material. This is an example of how Congress can work to fight the misuse of emerging technologies. We are all committed to promoting and protecting the privacy of all Americans, promoting transparency about artificial intelligence, how it is being developed, how it is being used, while also keeping our country's competitive edge and safeguarding our national security. I look forward to the work of Congress in this next Congress on tackling these issues and continuing to develop the appropriate policy solutions for our country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Laurel. Congresswoman Fushi was going to be next. I know that our Democratic colleagues have an issue in steering this morning, so I imagine they will be filtering in. Congressman Issa, Congresswoman Stevens. All right. Congresswoman Jacobs.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Well, Hi, everybody, and thank you to Chair Obernolte and Co-Chair Ted Lieu, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, for guiding the task force work and creating this final report. As one of the youngest members of Congress, one of the reasons I actually ran for Congress in the first place was because I felt like there were so many new challenges, like emerging technology, that Congress just wasn't keeping up with. Technologies like AI have so much potential to solve big challenges like poverty and healthcare access, but there are also big risks. And it's up to us in Congress to make sure we set the rules of the road that help encourage the former and protect against the latter. This is our opportunity to strike the right balance that encourages innovation and American leadership while also creating guardrails that protect our rights and our safety. That's why I'm so proud of this report, and in particular, some of these key things. So the first is that as ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Subcommittee on Africa, I know the importance of distributing the benefits of AI equitably on a global scale and ensuring that no community is overlooked, forgotten, or exploited by this technology. To do that, we need to include civil society organizations and governments from the Global South in a global AI governance system, and that's why I was so pleased that this report continues to encourage U.S. engagement in international standards development and further international collaboration. I'm also glad that this report includes a recommendation to empower sectoral regulators with the tools and expertise to address AI-related risks, which mirrors legislation that I've been working on for the past 2 years and will be introducing in the next term that ensures federal agencies have what they need to oversee AI systems, protect civil rights and public safety, and enforce existing federal law. AI and autonomous systems also have major implications for the future of the battlefield, some of which can help save our service members' time and lives, and others which can be incredibly dangerous. That's why I'm proud that our bipartisan report recommends Congress to support DoD's policy requiring meaningful human control over the launch of nuclear weapons. This provision complements language that I championed in this year's NDAA. I hope that this report serves as a starting point for all of us, because we have a long way to go to harness the full potential and opportunities of AI while also setting the rules of the road to minimize potential harm. And I hope that this report also shows that despite what this past election may lead us to believe, we can find common ground and bipartisan agreement, even, maybe especially, on big, complicated, and rapidly evolving priorities like AI. So thank you again, Chair Obernolte and Co-Chair Lieu, for all of your work this year. It's been such an honor to be doing this work under your leadership.
Okay, we'll hear next from Congresswoman Peterson.
To make some big room there. Good morning, everybody. It is very exciting to be here today. You know, I'm a freshman. I guess I'll no longer be a freshman soon. But the thing that gives me hope are work like this, where we actually come together, have those critical conversations, and work in a bipartisan way. I want to thank the co-chairs for their leadership, all of the panelists who came to present on critical areas, but also our leadership, Hakeem Jeffries and Speaker Johnson, for making this a priority. My hope is that we'll continue to have the opportunity to meet to create the overarching structure that we need around AI and emerging technologies outside of our normal committee meetings. I want to thank as well all of the members who engaged and are going to continue to roll up their sleeves to do the critical work that's necessary. AI is really going to define who's leading in the next 100 years. Do we want it to be China, or do we want it to be the United States? Are we going to set the standard here and set the standard globally, or are we going to leave that to others to take on? I know that I want to live in a future where it's the United States who's leading. We have so much opportunity when I think about, you know, my 4-year-old son and my son on the way, the future that they're going to have because of these new opportunities that are exponential opportunities that we can't even imagine. As long as we're able to create the guardrails necessary for consumer protections, for national security protections, and also invest in critical need areas. One of the biggest barriers, it's hard, I get out of breath easy these days. One of the biggest barriers that we face in the United States is investing in the energy needed for AI. And so when we look at data centers and what we're going to do to prioritize those dollars, while also mitigating against climate change and the new technologies necessary to meet our energy needs. This is really front and center for me when I think about what we need to do as the United States to make sure that we're leading on this issue. I'm grateful that we also included in the report some of the priorities that we made sure were in there around the federal investment for research to make AI energy efficient and support the infrastructure, on elections, highlighting that the federal government can support our local election AI readiness for election security. This is critical when you meet with clerks and secretaries of state on the resources they're going to need in the future. And then helping our smaller businesses. So when we think of our financial service sector, what we're going to do to invest to make sure that we're not leaving our smaller banks vulnerable for fraud. When we think about the vulnerabilities that our constituents have, it's exponentially increased. So with fraud and abuse. And so what we can do to help support our constituents there. So thank you all for your work. Thanks for being here. I want to thank the team who supported this, not just our individual staff, the team that has really put all of our ideas together in this report. I can guarantee it wasn't us all up all night writing these. So appreciate you all. Look forward to our work in the next Congress. And with that, I'll turn it back to our chair.
Well, thank you very much. I should have told you that to take your time, because we decided ahead of time as two people, you got twice as much speaking time. So we'll go next to Congresswoman Bonamici.
Thank you very much, Co-Chair Obernolte, and also thanks to Co-Chair Ted Lieu, who can't be here today. And also thank you to the staff on both sides of the aisle who worked so hard on this task force report that we are here today to release and celebrate. It's been an honor to work on this team. As we know, AI is evolving rapidly, and there is tremendous potential, as several of my colleagues have mentioned, but there is also significant risk, which has been discussed. So we do need responsible guidelines, parameters, and privacy protections. We know that. As a senior member of the Committee on Science, Space, and Technology, in whose room we are meeting, thank you to the Science, Space, and Technology staff for all your support. I also serve on the Education and Workforce Committee, and I'm the co-chair of the Career and Technical Education and STEAM Caucus, about educating people to be innovative and creative. So I understand the importance of artificial intelligence, but I also understand what we need to do to have the workforce. We need to equip educators to understand how to use AI and AI tools in beneficial ways, because there are many, and I know many school districts are working on this now. Our educators need that professional development. We know also that it's important to focus on AI literacy starting early. K-12 is not too early. And we need to especially maintain robust privacy protections. One of my colleagues said for children and adults. That's especially true as AI becomes more prevalent in our school system. We also need to incorporate ethics and humanities into AI and AI teaching. We need to mitigate risks and address harmful bias. We've had many conversations about that. And we know, obviously, we need programmers, developers, engineers, but we also need ethicists and linguists and historians. And I've been impressed with experts who have said we need people of well-rounded backgrounds to understand artificial intelligence and its implications in our society and in our commercial industries and national defense. So for U.S. leadership, we need, as my colleague mentioned, those investments in research and development and in monitoring. And if our agencies are going to be regulating and enforcing, we're going to make sure they have the skills and the staff as well. So this report is just the start of our work, and now we are looking forward to, as we move into the next Congress, implementing many of these recommendations. I look forward to advancing many of the bipartisan pieces of legislation that have been informed by this report. This will open doors to new opportunities and spark innovation, and importantly, bolster U.S. leadership. So again, thank you to our co-chairs and staff. It's been an honor to work with you, and now the real work begins. I thank you, and I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you very much. We'll have other task force members drifting in and out here, but happy to take some questions if anyone has any. Yes, ma'am. So certainly resources includes monetary resources, but we think that many of these departments have the resources that they need already. We've highlighted in the report several areas where they do not. And as to your question about government efficiency, I think efficiency means pretty much the same thing to most people. It means doing the job as with the minimum number of resources that you can. Clearly, in an environment where we're running about a 30% budget deficit, the need for making government more efficient is highlighted. However, we have a whole chapter in the report that focuses on the ways that artificial intelligence can make government more efficient. So we think that AI can be part of the solution there, not part of the problem. Yes, sir. Right. Now, it's a great question because there's a lot of fear and mistrust among investors about the regulatory environment for AI. If you think about the fact that the current generation of frontier large language models took over $100 million of resource to train, and the next generation will be over $1 billion. And I'm sure within a couple of years, we're talking about billions, plural, of dollars required to train a frontier model. You can think about how difficult it would be to attract that kind of investor capital if there's a fear every time the political winds shift a little bit that the government's approach to AI regulation radically changes. That's not an environment that would catalyze the investments of capital required to keep America at the forefront of AI innovation. And so that's part of the message that we're trying to send, and part of the reason why we wanted to be a broadly bipartisan task force is that there's nothing inherently partisan about the regulation of AI. And so we want to come up with a framework that's durable, and the only way to make it durable is to have it be both bipartisan and bicameral. So that's the task that we have set ourselves. Yes, ma'am. Certainly. Well, I think a great answer to that question is to point people to the AI risk management framework that was developed by NIST last year. That document has been widely acknowledged as probably the most forward-thinking document on risk management AI that's been produced anywhere in the world. Other countries are adopting that as a model. So I think it's clear some deep thinking went into that. If you read through that framework, you realize that the risks of AI are highly contextual. What I mean is that it matters very much what you're going to do with AI when you're determining what the risk of that action is. So something that where an AI algorithm would be unacceptably risky, for example, in a medical device, something that's going to be implanted in someone's body, that same algorithm might be completely benign in another usage context, a video game, for example. So it matters very much what you're going to do with that. And that's why sectoral regulation is so important because, for example, the FDA regulates the use of AI in medical devices, but a lot of people don't realize that they have already issued nearly 1,000 permits for the use of AI in medical devices. And again, it's hard to imagine a higher risk use case than something that's going to be implanted in your body or used as a diagnostic tool. But the FDA has approached this through the same lens as they approach all of their regulatory approvals, which is patient safety. So they don't care if it's AI or not AI. They know that AI has some unique risks. They're trying to be aware of those, what they are, and thoughtful about how they manage them. But everything is about patient safety for them. So that's what we mean when we say empowering our sectoral regulators, because the FDA and we engaged in our task force reports the broadest possible spectrum of stakeholders. And we had a bunch of different roundtables because we wanted to be sure that we were listening to people who were actually going to be impacted by the decisions we make. Most of the stakeholders in that universe feel the FDA is doing a pretty solid job at regulating. So we need to make sure that they have the tools and resources that they need to do their job. To contrast that to a non-sectoral approach where we create a brand new bureaucracy and empower them to issue AI licenses for medical devices. Ask yourself how much work we would have to do to teach that new agency everything that the FDA has learned through decades of ensuring patient safety, and contrast that to the effort required to teach the FDA what it might not already know about artificial intelligence. And I think you'll see why we believe the sectoral approach is the correct one. That's like wishing for more wishes, isn't it? All right, go ahead, we've got time. Certainly, if you look in the back, one of our appendices on the report, we try and give some recognition to the folks that attended our roundtables and helped us with stakeholder engagement. And Sam Altman in particular is on there, and a number of different AI companies are. Because again, it was important to us that we hear directly from the people that are going to be impacted by the decisions that we make. So we were fortunate to have a broad engagement from the stakeholder community. Yes, sir. Certainly. This is something that's very near and dear to my heart, but I'm actually going to defer to my colleague, Congressman Foster, because this is his #1 issue, and rightfully so.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I missed the question.
If you could go on a little bit about how could Congress implement method verifying identity.
I think this is something that the rest of the world is moving on, and individual states in the United States are moving on. When people first see deepfakes, their first reaction is, we need some magic software that will tell the difference between deepfake and authentic material. I believe, and I think most experts believe, that will be a losing battle. So the other thing that you can do, the other side of the coin, is to provide a means for people to prove they are who they say they are in an online environment. It's very simple. If you're TSA and you show up at the airport, you present an ID, and their job is to figure out if this is a valid ID and if that is in fact you on the picture of the ID. All right, it's much more difficult if you're coming in with an internet connection claiming they're Representative Bill Foster to find out whether or not. The best you can do is to present something like the digital driver's licenses that are being rolled out by many states and used for Louisiana, for example, is using this in an attempt to try to keep children off of porn websites. And so the technology was developed and defined by NIST, back a decade ago. And states are rolling it out. The EU, within about a year, every EU citizen will have, if they wish, an app that allows them to authenticate as a single legally traceable citizen of the EU. And this will be transformative for things like banking. I'm the lead Democrat on the subcommittee with oversight over banking and monetary policy. But the business of know your customer requirements is one of the biggest costs for fintech startups or for small banks. And that is much easier in countries where you want to open a bank account, get out your cell phone, present your secure digital ID, take advantage of the fact that a modern cell phone is pretty good at recognizing its owner and can be registered and used like a security dongle, a security key. And you combine all those elements, and there are good systems in operation today in different countries around the world that allow citizens to really, get past the problem of deepfake impersonation, which has certainly the financial world is just on high alert because of that. And that's something where I think we should look at the technology that has been developed by the United States and adopted around the world, and try to get the federal government to do things like, there was between 60 and $120 billion of COVID fraud, much of it identity fraud. And this did not happen in countries that had a secure digital ID. So you want your COVID benefit check? Get out your cell phone, do your biometric log into your cell phone, and present the ID that shows that you're a legally traceable citizen. So this is, I think this is one of the things where I'm hopeful the DOGE committee, looking at government efficiency, will look at the amount of time and money that we waste by not having a secure digital ID and fix it.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I absolutely do think that there needs to be, and I think that that's something that is broadly believed by all of the members of the task force. We have an entire chapter in our report on education and workforce issues, and among those, we highlight the disruption that AI is going to create, but also tie that to the need for further education. So certainly we're going to need to do some reskilling. But we're also going to need to make sure that our education system adapts to be able to equip our young people with the tools that they're going to need to succeed in a 21st century workforce. That includes productivity enhancing tools like artificial intelligence. So I think that's going to require a lot of attention. I also think that we need to highlight our competition with other countries, and the United States should not be a surprise to anyone in this room is falling behind in that competition. China graduated last year 3.5 times as many four-year degrees in STEM fields as the United States did. It's likely China will graduate twice as many PhDs in computer science this year as China will. Those should be very concerning to Americans, not because of the geopolitical competition that's occurring, but because of the need to make sure that America remains the place where artificial intelligence research is done and where innovation in AI technology thrives. And that cannot occur without the educated workforce that we need to deploy it. So we hope we've made that point in the education chapter in the task force report. We touched on, just in passing, on some of the immigration issues. We didn't get into detail in the immigration report. If you want my opinion on the topic, I think that every PhD in a STEM field that is awarded by an American university should come with a green card. I think that immigrants have proven throughout U.S. history the impact that they can have on the U.S. economy, and I think that will continue to be true in the future. And so I think that is something that Congress should look at. But again, that's my opinion. That's not something that we engaged in on the task force level. Oh, okay, sure.
Sure, yeah. I've been introducing legislation to do exactly that for years now. And, we run into things like jurisdictional discussions between different committees and with the Senate. But that's something that really has overwhelming bipartisan support. And so it's a source of frustration every time when we get these end of the year deals going. We try to sneak it into these big packages without success so far. But that would, the other thing that we could do along those lines that would have a huge impact is to let Russian STEM PhDs, whether they got the degree here in Russia or here, to just have an expedited path to citizenship. That would do more towards taking the wind out of Vladimir Putin's sails than anything else you could mention.
And now it's an honor to introduce Congresswoman Fushi, an honored member of our task force, and my ranking member on the Science, Space, and Technology Subcommittee on Oversight, for a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and please forgive my tardiness. Good morning. I am Congresswoman Valerie Foushee, the federal representative from North Carolina's 4th Congressional District, and it is certainly wonderful to be here with you all today. First, I'd like to thank our task force co-chairs, Obernolte and Liu, for their steadfast leadership over the last year as we discussed a variety of issues across the AI ecosystem with a wide range of stakeholders from civil society, field experts, business leaders, government officials, legal scholars, and academics. This report is a critical first step towards ensuring that Congress can properly address advances in emerging technologies and maintain a thoughtful, long-term vision for AI that works best for our society. AI holds immense potential for progress, but we must continue to take proactive steps to ensure the benefits of this technology are realized in a secure, equitable, and ethical manner. And throughout my time with the task force, I have been proud to champion several key priorities outlined in this report, including broadening participation in AI research and development and education, protecting civil rights and civil liberties, and assessing and understanding AI's rising environmental and energy impacts. Specifically, our report includes an entire chapter on civil rights and liberties and details key findings about how improper use of AI and algorithmic bias can deprive Americans of their civil rights. Many Americans today already face algorithmic discrimination, where automated decision-making tools are utilized in consequential decisions such as credit and mortgage lending access, healthcare, and employment. Mitigating harmful bias and identifying adverse effects that affect civil rights must be a core consideration for Congress and federal agencies moving forward. We also know that AI requires access to capital and resources, and we have outlined through efforts like my Expanding AI Voices Act and others how we should address the challenging in accessing AI resources that many minority-serving and rural-serving institutions face. I am also pleased that our report includes a focus on assessing AI's environmental and energy impacts. If we are to achieve our nation's climate and emissions goals, it is critical that we take steps to better track the demand for energy and other resources associated with AI systems and data centers. The future of AI is exciting, but we must ensure the United States remains at the forefront of its development. Ensuring responsible deployment of these technologies must be our priority, and this report is an important step in that direction. Thank you so much, and we appreciate your support for our efforts to implement these recommendations and adapt the new challenges to come in the 119th Congress and beyond. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. All right, I think we have time for a couple more questions. Yes, ma'am. Yes, we met with the Trump technology transition team last week, and I believe we're meeting with the speaker with the AI czar this afternoon. Obviously, this is not the last word in AI. Our report is the beginning. It's the beginning of the conversation, and it will only be effective if future Congresses implement some of the recommendations that we have created in the report. And we need to be a partner with the executive branch in making that happen. As we make abundantly clear in the report, this has to be a team effort. It has to be a team effort between the Senate and the House, and it has to be a team effort between the legislative branch and the executive branch. But we think that all of those entities are up to the challenge. We are discussing, what can be done via executive order, what needs legislative action, and how those efforts are going to be harmonized. Yes, sir, in the back.
Have you talked with the speaker and settled on
we are having those discussions. I mean, we feel strongly that that the task is going to remain for the 119th Congress to implement these recommendations, and I think everyone agrees on that. The question is, well, how best to do that? Are we going to let policy committees take the lead? Is the task force going to continue to exist to form that nexus? Will there be some kind of a select committee or a select subcommittee? So we're working through those issues, but we have been very vocal in the belief that something needs to be done. Yes, ma'am. Well, that's a great question. So originally, well, let me back up a step. So the task force actually had a hearing to consider bills that the task force were going to endorse and recommend and push for the passage of. And so we settled on a group of bills that the task force got behind in the current Congress. When we did that, we knew that we didn't have a lot of legislative runway left, but we thought it was an important act to take. One of the thoughts was that we might have specific bills that we included in the task force report. But at the end of the day, disagreements started to emerge about the language in each individual bill, and we realized that if we wanted to maintain this coalition that was broadly bipartisan and maintain that unanimity, that it probably was counterproductive to actually be talking about legislative language. And again, one of the concepts that we're embracing here is incrementalism. So we don't think it's important that everyone agrees on every single aspect of AI immediately. We think we've got some runway to be able to work through those issues. And there are some issues that are more urgent. And my colleagues brought up one of them that's very important to me, the problem of non-consensual intimate imagery. I think that's something that the next Congress needs to get right on in fixing. But there are other issues that we have a little bit more lead time on. And so I think we have the time to be deliberate and thoughtful about the way that we engage on these topics. So that's why we didn't include specific legislative language. All right, so I'm being given the hook here, but I want to thank you again for being here and helping roll out this report, and again to thank my task force members and our leadership on both sides of the aisle, but also to remind everybody that this is not the end of the conversation on AI. This is just the beginning, and we've created a roadmap here that we hope future Congresses will follow. We've got 85 specific recommendations, and we hope that that sets a thoughtful and deliberate path for future Congresses to implement in achieving this balance between protecting Americans against the potential harms of AI and enabling AI innovation to flourish here in the United States. So thanks very much, everyone, and I certainly look forward to engaging with you further on this topic.